Muy buenas, pues bueno, aquí estamos, bienvenidos a la emisión desde la Quakecon 2018, ¿vale? Se va a mostrar más de Fallout 76, no sé exactamente qué se mostrará, lo que sí se ha dicho es que se va a mostrar bastante jugabilidad, ¿ok? Sobre este Fallout, así que vamos a ver qué realmente es lo que nos muestra Bethesda. No esperemos nada sobre Switch, que luego nos llevamos disgustos, ¿ok? Pero contemos con que puede ser posible que anunciasen algo, son imprevisibles. Y deciros que van a estar como una ronda de preguntas y respuestas con el público, ¿ok? Lo que vienen siendo los programadores y demás. Y luego irán desentrañando un poquito lo que viene siendo todo el tema jugable, ¿ok? Sobre el juego. Iremos seguramente viendo un poquito más en profundidad. Así que lo dicho, muchas gracias a las 100 personas que os habéis incorporado ya. Y gracias por seguir conmigo esto. De hecho no tenía pensado emitirlo, pero he dicho, bueno, pues vamos a emitir esto un poquito, ¿no? He retrasado el stream de Dragon Ball. Confirmadme que todo va bien, que se escucha bien mi voz, el stream y todo, ¿ok?
I'd love to play the official trailer for Fallout 76, the one we debuted at E3 2 months ago, because
muy buenas, hermosos.
I watched that trailer again and again and again. So why don't we all watch it together again?
Estoy aquí merendando, ¿eh? Estoy aquí merendando. Mira, mira, ya ponen algo ahí. Con vuestro permiso. Hola Fernando de Painco, La Cueva del Norte, Manuel Lozano, Sebastián, Juan Cuevas, Kaimer, Magic Kirke, La Cueva del Norte. Ya está empezando aquí algo. Ahí lo dejo. Ahí a tope, muchas gracias. Recordad darle ahí un like bien hermoso si os gusta este stream, y si no, pues oye, pues para apoyarme también.
300 years after our great nation began, we gathered together to honor the completion
Está aquí.
of Vault 76. This sprawling underground shelter may have been engineered by Vault Tech.
Gracias, Manuel.
But it was built by you. So that if the bombs do come, our way of life will endure.
Almost heaven.
Sí, ahora lo subo.
West Virginia, Blue Ridge
Ahí tiene que estar bien de volumen ya.
Shenandoah River, life is all there.
No pude, Magic Kirke, no pude hacer ese directo.
Younger than the mountains, blowing like the breeze. Country roads, take me home to the lake.
Muchas gracias, Alexander.
West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
Qué temazo, chavales. A tope, Juan, gracias.
For when the fighting is stopped and the fallout has settled,
Se vienen los idos, Daniel.
must rebuild. Not just walls, not just buildings, but hearts and minds.
Está bien el
And
volumen, ¿no?
ultimately, America itself.
Sí, luego pondrán jugabilidad. Se supone que van a desvelar jugabilidad. Sí.
In Vault 76, our future begins.
Hola, Edward Batista. Hola, cariño, Esmeralda.
This doesn't get old.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
Everyone started clapping. I got goosebumps.
yeah. It's like a
was
religious
awesome.
experience, like a communal experience, hearing
Si
people,
poder puede.
watching some of you sing along to the song. It's amazing.
Pero van a introducir un tipo de juego nuevo en la saga Fallout. Entonces a lo mejor yo creo que quieren esperar a ver cómo funcionan las otras para ver si se aventuran a lanzarlo en Switch.
The team
Que a lo
here,
mejor me equivoco y
starting
tracas,
with
o sea, eso no se sabe.
development director Chris Meyer, who
Ok.
also happens to be a local or extended local. You're right down the road in Austin.
Austin,
in our
Texas.
Austin studio.
I've been there since '95, so
Yeah.
it's a great city, Austin.
Project leader Jeff Gardner. And of course, game director Todd Howard.
Muy buenas, Fernando.
So,
And Gary.
and well, I introduced myself. Well, I'm Gary.
Por ahora no. Para Switch no va a estar. Por ahora. Por ahora.
I promise tough
Es
questions,
es
and
la
they'll come,
Quakecon,
but let's start with an
Daniel.
easy one, or what should be an
Es
easy
la
one.
Quakecon.
Todd, what exactly is Fallout 76?
That's a good question.
Pues ánimo, Jorge, y que mejores.
I mean,
es lo que te
the short
pase.
answer is, I think people know, Fallout 76 is an open world
Bienvenido, Tiago.
RPG set
Gracias por
in the
suscribirte.
Fallout universe that has a lot of systemic and survival qualities.
Mind Traveler, Edward Batista.
And the big difference
Mind
with
Traveler.
games, other games or games that we've done, are that every character you see is a real human
Bethesda Daddy.
that is playing the game, and that creates some really exciting scenarios that we never can anticipate.
You used the word
No, hombre, yo
systemic.
creo que habrá más Fallout en
And
Switch.
we've
Hay que dar
got
tiempo al
Chris
tiempo, yo
here,
creo.
who worked on one of the granddaddies of all systemic
Ibs
online games,
Bautista,
Ultima
un saludo,
Online.
compi.
And now you're working on Fallout 76. Tell us about your journey to work on this game, but also your excitement, your experience, and what you're bringing to Fallout
Desde
76
tweets.
in terms of that kind of
Inicia.
systemic online game.
Martian.
Ultima Online is the reason I'm in the industry. It was the first game I worked on and how I cut my teeth working on sandbox games with lots and lots of
Posible
players.
es
So it is a
Byron,
dream come true to sort
Portillo,
of bring that
pero
experience to the Fallout universe,
Es un
which is a
concepto
beloved
distinto a la saga
franchise for me
Fallout y no sé yo
personally.
si van a querer iniciar con
And
eso
what
en
do you
Switch
do?
los
So
Fallout.
Jeff, what do you do
Ese es el problema que veo yo.
hour to hour, minute to minute in the game? I mean, people know what a Fallout game is and what you do in a Fallout game. Is it similar here? Do you have quests? Do you have activities? What goes on?
You have
Venga,
quests,
toquemos
tons
Switch,
of systemic
toquemos Switch.
activities. I mean, it's
Hombre,
very
ya
similar
tuvimos
to the Fallout
lo de
you know
Boom
and
ayer,
love.
que estuvo muy bien.
The major difference is
el
obviously, as you've heard, it's online.
Wolfenstein
And there's a lot of
John
tension
Blatt,
created with other
que
characters.
seguramente
Are
también
they
salga.
friendly? Are they
Itsuka
foes?
Kazuka.
We really dug into the
Bienvenido,
survival
barra
elements
ida,
and
lo
the
siento.
crafting
No sé si
elements
eres
of
chico
the
chica,
game, the
perdóname.
workshop and camp
Pero
elements.
bienvenido.
So we really hope it's really like a place that once you're in it, you're sucked in for hours. We
Sí,
find at work
la
like
tengo
we
desde
just
mucho
sucked
esta
hours
camiseta.
go by and we're like, oh my god, I got
En el
work
vídeo
to
de
do.
hoy la voy a tener puesta, de que
So
subiré
playing the game.
después.
So it's wonderful. Yeah, it's great.
And I think and people who come to the office and play it, at first they're like, this is the Fallout I know and love. So I think like 80% of it probably is the Fallout everyone is used to, and the other 20% is really
A
different.
vosotros, Johan Lee.
And
Sin
at
vosotros no
times
sería
a little hard
nada,
to
compi, ya lo
explain,
sabéis.
You know, this is the flow and how
Raúl.
it feels, because at one point it's comfortable, and the other side it's all new.
Which brings me to another variation on that question.
Estoy muy ansioso. ¿Algo que me
Is
aconsejen?
this the right game for
¿En
Fallout
qué sentido?
fans?
¿De Tempest?
Well, I
The
think so, but I don't really know.
Temptress.
There are so many types of Fallout fans, right? You see everybody here, and there's so many
Jorge
things
Tapia,
in our
bienvenido.
games, and some people love just the exploration, the character building, the stories,
Hola,
the
Daniel.
combat,
Gracias por pasar por aquí.
crafting, and so it has all of those things. Obviously, the thing it doesn't have
Recordad que
are
tenéis un
NPCs
Discord,
that
¿eh?
are going to be specific
Igna, ahí,
characters that
ese
tell you
Discord que
a
ha puesto
story
Igna.
that we've written.
Os recomiendo mucho
We
que os
love
paséis
those
por ahí,
things.
que por ahí
We're seeing
estamos
one of
todos
our fans
hablando. Yo
love
de vez
those
en cuando
things.
tengo tiempo, me
And
meto y
this
hablo
one
con vosotros.
replaces that with
Tenemos muchos apartados,
the other-
nos lo pasamos
the
muy
other
bien en ese
they
Discord, así
are
que
the
meteos por ahí,
interesting
hacerle caso a Igna, que ahora lo tengo de
hopefully,
moderador,
in a lot of ways,
y echarle un
more
vistacillo a ese
interesting
Discord.
than what we may
Seguro
create
que os
on our
mola,
own. So
me
that part's
entretenéis un
very
ratito.
different. I can't say it's, better or worse, but
Pues,
when
Iker,
you sit down and
en un
play it, it
principio,
feels
no.
like a new Fallout game.
But
En un
there's no
principio.
one type of Fallout. And we've talked about this around the office a little bit too. There's no one type of Fallout fan, is there?
No, not at all. And if you look at the old games, you're coming from an isometric, more turn-based type thing to what today is
Bienvenido, Alex.
it has more
Snd-
adventure elements in terms of exploring a world and what that means to feel like living in that world. And that's something that still is very important to us at the studio in terms of
Luigi
for the
Mansion 3 en
time you're
Switch,
in
lo veo
it,
posible.
it has to feel
Lo veo
real,
posible, está dando
despite
muchas
it being a
pistas
video
además,
game and stuff like
Sure.
And that's what
Lo
sucks you
veo
in when we
posible.
play it. It's reached the point in the office where really we don't want to stop playing.
Fallout
It has a
Center
very
lo que es
slow
como un
burn,
spin-off.
but you feel like
No forma parte
I
de la
am this
rama principal de
person
nada.
in this world and learning how to survive and learning how to conquer it. It's very rewarding.
Alex, SND.
The other big
saludo.
question I have
Gracias por
is,
suscribirte.
why now? Why is now the right time for an online Fallout?
Well, we figured we wouldn't do it till we had done
Podían
70
tener
more
sustituillo.
versions of Fallout. So we
Estaría
went to
bien.
76. Figured we'd get to- I don't know is a good answer for that. We had talked
Estaría
early
bien.
on. We had, talked with Chris, who was down in Austin, the team there. We had some ideas of what multiplayer could look like. We started
Opino que es muy
that
posible,
during
Jopete,
Fallout 4, really
con el
on
modo
paper.
historia.
And Chris and some of the other folks in Austin actually started before, right when we were starting to finish Fallout 4 in 2015 to see, you know, how it could feel, what it could look like, and it kind of grew from there.
Yeah, it was great. It was taking,
Molaría que aunque no fuese el 76, el que lo hacen en Switch, que dijeran, y también próximamente disponible Fallout 3 o Fallout 4, yo qué sé. Anexo a esto molaría, que sea la sorpresa.
And then this one is for you, Jeff. You've got a herd many cats in your role. And now you've got these cats that are not just
Gracias,
in
Iker. La
Maryland,
fecha del ARC.
and not just in Montreal,
Creo que
and
sale en
not just in
otoño.
Austin, but yesterday we announced
Creo que
that
sale en otoño, Ark,
we have BGS
No me hagas mucho
Dallas
caso, pero
as part
creo
of
que
the
es en
family.
otoño.
So you've got a team spread across North America.
F0 lo veo dificilillo. Por ahora.
How are you not pulling
Pero
your
no,
hair
nunca
out?
es imposible.
Well, I am pulling my hair out. But it's, you know, it's amazing. There's so many talented people across these teams with great leadership. And, you know, this has been a learning curve for me, too. It's my first online game. So without guys like Chris Romero who have done it for years, I'd really be lost at sea. It's an amazing experience
Ahora
to be
mismo
able
no
to go to
caigo,
Montreal
Daniel,
and work
pero
with the folks who are
gracias
doing
por
all the
haber estado allí
graphics and
en
then
ese
Vec on
directo.
awesome, all these gameplay
Es que
and,
soy muchos los cientos de personas que
it's bringing this all
que
together in a
se
way
meten al día mis directos
that
y
has been,
lo siento si a los que no estoy siempre me acuerdo, ¿vale?
right? So it's
Pero
gone and gone
Daniel,
and gone. And we've
PR
done this
Gamer,
really quickly,
me
we
acordaré de
iterate
ti.
really fast, and everyone is really good about communicating. And we fall short here and there, but we all have what's best in mind for the game is always our number one thing, not ego. So we always focus on that goal, and we're so excited to share it with all of you.
And for you, Chris, you recently
Primero es que
joined,
hay una sesión de
relatively
preguntas con
recently
los-
joined the BGS
con los
family.
creadores y
What's it like
demás,
the
y luego
culture
ya-
here, and how did you adapt to
Próximo Nintendo
becoming
es
part of
normal.
the
Yo
BGS family?
personalmente,
Once I got over the awe of actually being
Antes
a
de que
part
acabe
of
el
Bethesda
verano.
games, they make franchises that
Antes de
I've
que acabe el
loved
verano,
forever, starting
Lo
with
veo yo.
Morrowind. But after that, adapting to their culture, they're a very iterative studio, which I like. I love that we
Hola,
play the game
Demorque.
every day, sometimes all day,
No,
and
todavía
keep
no ha
making
ocurrido nada.
improvements every time we make a new
Hiperlombax.
build. And
Están
that's
simplemente
it's a great
hablando los
culture,
programadores y demás.
great thing to be a part of. I love working with all of these guys.
los
That's
responsables,
great. So, you brought some new stuff, Todd.
Cuando pueda aceptar las
And
solicitudes, que
to
tengo
be
muchas
honest with everyone out
pendientes.
here, I only saw this stuff maybe an hour ago, so it's still fresh to me too. Stuff about the character progression, perks, and whatnot. Why don't
Ark
you
lo
tell us
subiré
what
Yeah, we
about
siempre
it?
que lo pueda
look through
tener.
the questions everybody has about the game. One of the big
Todo
ones
depende
is how
del
does the
dinero o
character
de
system
si
work?
la propia
Given
compañía
that it's an
a veces me
online
suministra
multiplayer game, so we have a
alguna
bunch of
clave y lo
stuff
puedo
to show
traer.
you all
Depende
in
de
the
cómo esté
game,
yo.
how the character system works. And we'll go through and explain it. One of the things that we're doing, we showed a little bit of
Gracias,
it at
Ítalo.
E3, the
Gracias a los que
You Will
estuviste
Emerge
allí.
videos from our friends at Vaultec. And so we've done these videos for several
PlayStation
sections of the game.
Experience. El
And
año
we
pasado
thought
fue a
we would
finales de
show you
año,
first
creo.
here at Quakecon, the one that
Noviembre,
deals with perks.
diciembre, no
So,
sé, fue por ahí
you
el
can
año
roll it.
pasado, no me hagáis mucho caso. Mira, aquí ya van a mostrar cosillas. Cómo me gustan a mí estos cortos. Voy a subir el volumen.
You will emerge. Today's episode, Being a Better You. In life, we must each deal with the hand we are dealt, performing our assigned role to the best of our capacity.
Buenísimo, tío, estos
But
cortos.
after total atomic annihilation, you may find the hand you were dealt has been reshuffled. Yes, gone are the simple days of yesteryear. Now the common workman must also be a covert operative. The
Buenísimo los
farmer, a
cortos.
master of the martial arts. The ice cream man, a nuclear physicist. How will you make sense of it all? Simple. Turn to your official
No creo
Vault-Tec
que vayan a hacer
training
un evento para
materials.
Switch Online,
With these
Creo
powerful
que por ahí no
tools in
creo.
hand, you'll learn to make the most of your natural abilities and better understand what makes you
Lo siento,
special.
Lucía. Pero es que soy mucho.
Use
y tengo
them
muy
to
poco
be the
tiempo.
best you can be, or someone even better. Your survival depends on
Por
it.
unas 20 horas, Alexis. Es que tengo muy
With your
poco tiempo y
future
mucho
secure,
juego.
share your newfound knowledge with others for great benefit.
What?
But remember, there's power in diversity. Sometimes who we are isn't a choice at all. In fact, at a particular point in your young life, you may notice that your body has begun going through certain unfamiliar changes. No, it's not puberty, it's mutation. Thanks to our old pal radiation, your DNA has become more interesting. See here, you've now gained the unique abilities of a marsupial in exchange for a mild neurological impairment.
Otra vez ahí con los Joy-Con.
Now you've learned how to be a better you. You are completely prepared to achieve your full potential in the role of your choosing. As a hand-picked resident of Vault 76, it is your duty to carefully review your Vault-Tec-provided films yearly to fully prepare for the day when you will emerge.
Hemos empezado hace 16 minutos solo.
Okay, Todd. That was a lot of fun, but I think we all have more questions now.
Yeah, it's... We'll take a little bit of a deeper dive here, and there's a lot to go through, and we'll do our best to explain it. The video does a great job of selling the IDOC parts of it. The mutation part, is pretty fun. Your character can actually get mutated. The perk system and how you develop your character. We've done a lot of interesting things there. Let's just jump right in and show you a little bit of character creation when you first start. You wake up in the vault, it's Reclamation Day. We have a full, customize your character like we've had before. It's even better now. And you get to take your ID badge. We've added this photo mode in the game. It's really cool.
The photo mode allows you to change your field of view, zoom in, zoom out. You'll see all the filters that are coming up. You can do this both here when you take your badge. It's like a training tutorial for it. And then you can do it anytime you want out in the wild with your friends, with dead enemies, with live enemies. We have also added this to our load screen system. There's not a lot of loads in our game, but when you fast travel, there's a little one. And so any of the pictures you've taken there will pop up like a random deck along with our curated photos. This came out of a game jam. We do these game jams in the middle of projects to see what new features we want to try to add in. And this was one of our favorite ones.
Yeah, it turned out really, really great.
And fun for socially shareable stuff too.
And so, again, you make your character as a whole host of it. You can take pictures where you want. You can also, anytime in the game, change how your character looks. Because you're going to play a character for a long time, and you can swap out, change your sex, anything, your hair, everything, just so that you don't feel like, well, I don't like how I picked in the very first second what I look like.
En primera persona.
And, really, really cool feature.
Pero te editas el aspecto
para
los que te ven.
We'll show you stepping out of the vault and the first level.
A lo mejor se puede alternar como los Fallout de toda la vida, pero que yo tenga entendido es en primera persona, pero igual puedes alternar, ¿vale? Mira, van a mostrarnos.
So if you hit level 2, when you step out, you kind of complete the initial vault thing, and the first thing you do when you level up is pick a special that you want to increase. If you played previous Fallouts, we have all the 7 specials. And after you pick the one you want to increase, you then pick a perk in that special. So here we're choosing Gladiator, which is a melee perk. And then that is a card. As you can see, the perk system, the perks are cards. And then you equip those, and every special is a pool of points for the cards you want to equip. And each card has,
I don't
want to say mana cost, but a point cost. For how powerful that card is, and do you have the right special for equipping it?
Right. And is
es verdad, las letras. No me había fijado las letras, que las letras.
There's some more on that we can get into and show you how flexible it is and why we made some of the choices that we did. But let's keep going, and then we can spend some time when we see a more complete character. Okay, this is a level up to level 4. So we picked some more cards. We wanted to show you how the cards themselves rank up.
Okay.
So you can pick that card again. So by picking Gladiator again, you can then combine that card with the other one to create a more powerful version, but it costs more points. So
Right.
sometimes you may decide,
exclusiva para
well, I
Neo
only
Geo
want the
Pocket.
1-point version equipped for my character build
Madre mía.
versus the more powerful 2-point version because I'm using my strength stats in some other way. Yeah, so I think that probably makes sense, yes. I hope.
Aunque os aviso,
But there's more than
que
4
el que no haya
levels.
jugado a la saga Fallout,
Yes,
esto va a ser
the
un
levels
Fallout muy
keep going up
distinto
and
a
up
los
and up. We
Fallout.
don't want to make a game where you have to
O al menos es lo que yo
stop
estoy viendo.
leveling.
Se va a desmarcar un poco
But we had to make some very
de la
interesting
experiencia esa
decisions of what
solitaria
that
de un
means for
jugador.
a multiplayer game for balance. So
Al
let's
ser
run
multiplayer
the
habrá que
next
ver cómo
one where we
funciona,
see it's a much higher level character.
Right.
I think it's in the 40s.
Pero parece que conserva la esencia.
So here we are, and you'll see a
principio.
character that's much further along. Picking charisma. We can talk about charisma is interesting.
Yeah.
Here's a perk that lets mutations act better with groups.
Tiene que ser Xbox, sí.
And so you can pick any perk that you meet the requirements for when you level up. There's no randomness there. And here's what it looks like with a character that's further along. We've upped the cap for each special to 15 from 10. That allows better balance for
Los
which
niveles
cards
de
you're
cada-
equipping. And the cards
de cada
right now
habilidad.
go from 1 point up to 5 points in power. And then as you level up, more cards become available.
No, Hisparo.
I've got
Es
a
online,
bunch of questions about
Okay,
that,
we
but
can
I
leave it on there
won't.
and
Este
talk
juego es
about it.
online.
Okay. But
No
I
tiene
wanted to
aventura
ask
de un
about
jugador,
charisma. Should I ask that later? About
We can talk about that now.
No
Yeah.
tiene una
Chris,
campaña de un
how does
jugador.
charisma work in an online game? If we're not talking about NPCs that you can influence, what?
Sale para Tamagotchi, para
what does
3DS no,
charisma do
Matías.
for
Para
you?
Tamagotchi.
That was a very
exclusivo.
interesting discussion amongst the team to try to figure out what do we do with charisma. But it made sense in a multiplayer game that a player that invests points in charisma and collects those
Hola,
cards,
starter.
they can share those cards with their teammates. So we've developed a system where that player that invests can become the person that makes your entire team more powerful by sharing those cards. We did throw a few cards in there for the single player. I think we have one as Lone Wolf, as I recall.
Hola, Nighting
Lone
Gamer,
Wanderer,
gracias por la
right.
donación,
So
compi.
you can
Ay, a
still
tope,
pick
muchas
some
gracias por
charisma
pasarte por esta
cards
donación,
if you're
compañero.
more of a solo kind of player. But
A
the
ver qué se
person
nos
that plays
muestra
in groups
aquí,
all the time will
Fallout.
probably invest more there.
Cool.
Yeah. And you probably saw before, again, when you level up, you get, these are the cards that come into the sets you can pick from when you're level 4 or 5, whatever. We also experimented with, well, how do we add some more fun to it and give you more choices? And so we have added, because they're cards, perk card packs. And every few levels, initially every 2 levels, you get
Habrá
a
que
perk
ver.
card pack,
Claro,
and
los
that has
fans,
4
Oriol,
random
más
cards. Again, you
acérrimos de
could have
Fallout,
picked these, but it
sé que
gives
este
you
cambio
some
no les
more
ha hecho
interesting
mucha
choice
especial
that
gracia,
you
la
might
verdad.
not have picked to give you some
El
flexibility
nuevo del Elder
in
Scrolls.
your character.
Os digo
And
una
then
cosa
later on,
sinceramente,
you
no
get
lo
them
esperéis
every
hasta la
5.
próxima
But let's look
generación,
at a
¿eh?
perk card pack opening, 'cause they're a
A ese
ton of
juego le
fun.
faltan 3 años. Mínimo.
We do have gold. That one's great. We have gold cards that animate. Of course, you get a joke and a stick of gum.
Nice.
And the gum, actually, for fun, is a very slight. It reduces your hunger for a while if you chew the gum.
Nice.
And so they're a ton of fun. When you hit that level and you're like, oh, it's level 6. All right, I get a pack. You
Ya,
get
lo
to
del
pick your
carisma,
regular
la verdad
perk,
es que no sé.
and then
Es
also
que
see like, okay, I got these other ones.
mejor
Is there
hay
something I want to swap out? And that's really good to
personajes no
talk
controlados por la
about.
máquina.
Is the swapping
Right.
Of the perks.
Aparte de las
Right,
personas.
because you mentioned that,
Eso ya no lo sé.
the
Gracias,
packs help you
Carlos.
discover something you might not have known you wanted, but how flexible is the system, Jeff?
Sorry, Gary.
Go ahead.
You can swap out perks anytime. Generally,
Atari
again,
Box,
to reiterate,
dice.
when you level up, you pick a special. You get a point in that special,
Hola,
which
¿qué
is the pool
hace?
of points that you can
Bienvenido.
swap perks into. You also get to pick 1 perk per level.
Hola, ¿qué hace?
Generally, you'll pick the
Qué
perk from the
grande
special
soy.
you chose, but you can also pick other perks if you have available points. And then these are wild cards. So every 2 levels from level 1 to 10, and then every 5 levels after, you'll get one of those perk packs. And what they allow you to do is to experiment with some other builds and cards you might not normally have played.
Quakecon
Remember,
es una
you do
feria.
start with 1 point in each special, so
Una
you will
feria.
have unused points from the beginning too, where you can try just slotting these in right off the bat.
Donde se hacen
What we have found
además.
is that allows players
se
to
hacen
go, hey, what are
campeonatos
these
de
luck
Quake
perks?
y
And
cosas, y
why do I
juegos
really
así,
want to
así,
search
estilo.
containers for extra ammo? And as you play a survival
El
game,
nombre,
you go,
joder,
wow, getting extra
Quakecon.
ammo and
O sea, el
containers
nombre
is
del
really
chat lo está
valuable.
diciendo.
And those,
Ayer fue la
remember, you can also
conferencia
share those perks.
donde
So
se
if you
mostraron
have
más
perks to
cositas.
share ammo and you share that on your team, every member of the team can then find more ammo and containers. And these all rank up up. So eventually you're getting like huge bonuses in
Primero
like
que Death
ammo or food
Stranding
you're finding, or
va a salir a
carry weight's a
PlayStation
big
6
deal in this
seguro,
game. A lot of interesting back and forth with developers on how much you can carry or not. And you know, you see those cards at first, you're like, well, that's not as cool as being able to do plus 20% damage with my pistol. But in a survival game, being able to carry more means you'll be able to carry more pistols.
Se va para la próxima generación.
You know, there's a lot of ways that interplay, and there are so many cards in here, hundreds, and you're able to really do these cool builds and swap things in and out. And then I'm on a team. I have a great perk for this team that I might not want to carry. Lone Wanderer is a perfect example of that. Lone Wanderer, as soon as I play that when I'm playing solo all the time, because it gives me a bonus in my experience and damage. And as soon as I get on a team, I turn that off because I'm on a team now, it doesn't work, and I'll equip a different card that I can share with my team.
So when you say builds, you're not really talking about sitting there and having multiple kind of decks. You're talking about having more of a baseline and then making little changes here and there quickly and easily. Is that a kind of a correct way of putting it? Or?
Yeah, your character, you're still progressing the way you would expect in an RPG, and it's kind of growing and growing and growing. So it's kind of what Jeff was saying. You're swapping out a thing here or there. The perk packs can also sometimes give you a perk that is, we intentionally do this, you might get one or two that from a pack of cards that is a higher level than you are. So it's like a few levels in shooting distance. So you say like, oh, I didn't even know that was a perk. Maybe I want to pick agility on my next level up because the game has given me this other perk and I just want to try it out. The other thing is, this is the multiplayer part of it, that when you hit level 50, you don't get to pick any, you don't get to give out a special point anymore. So that doling out strength and all that stops at level 50, but you still get to pick cards. So that gives us a continuing thing where, okay, I hit level 73, and I'm still like, you know what, I never got to pick that perk because again, I'll go pick that one, I want to try it out. So you're not, but we're still capping the, you know, the power curve ramp that in our other games, like a Skyrim or a Fallout 4, just like your character keeps getting more and more and more and more powerful, and we knew we couldn't really have that in this one.
Están haciendo preguntas y respuestas con los programadores, que básicamente es lo que es el evento.
Discover them in a card pack. You might see your friend using one that you never thought you'd use. Have any of you in your own internal playtesting found a perk that you never thought you would use that you're like, wow, this is really cool?
All the time.
Any recent examples?
Well, I remember when I first started playing the game, I did exactly what
que tengo el stream muy alto, coño.
Or Jeff, where I always picked the damage perk.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, okay, I just want to do more damage.
Cuando ven algo interesante lo subo el volumen del stream.
A lot of value in doing things like building up your camp.
Sí, pero a mí el 4 me gustó porque fue cuando me reenganché la saga Fallout. ¿Sabes? O sea, volví a reenganchar en el 4. Ya sé que es el más flojo para los fans, pero para el que no es fans, yo no soy fan de Fallout. O sea, me gusta, pero no soy fan. Entonces a mí el 4 tiene sus cosas, es más accesible. Te da menos quebraderos de cabeza. La Gamescom a finales de mes. Tengo programado el directo de Xbox ya, ¿eh? Lo tenéis ahí en directos programados. Os metéis y dadle a la campanita para que os avise. El 21 es el Inside Xbox. Y no sé si habrá más conferencias por ahora y esa.
I got a mutation called bird bone, but I didn't realize I'd gotten it, and all of a sudden I was over-equipped, which is always a frustrating experience in a game. And I'm like, why am I over-equipped? And I looked at
muy beta, Mega Man no puede estar. Sí sale en unos meses.
So again, like the way the dynamic systems work is incredible. And you can spend a lot of time in that perk menu, but remember, it is a live game, so make sure you're in a safe place.
And then I have another question. Who gets to write the jokes in the gum wrappers?
That is Emil Pagliarulo. Or, you know, he does all of the jokes.
Master of the memes.
He's done that for us for a long time.
Corpetit, salao, no es que no entienda de inglés, majo. Es que estoy atento a un chat y respondiendo a gente y no me entero de lo que dicen, básicamente. No se pueden tener los sentidos en todo. Así como datos, ¿eh? Te lo dejo caer, ahí. We Happy Few no lo he probado.
So let's switch gears. I want to get to some of the questions that we've gathered up from the community. I'm going to call this the Thunder round. Usually we do a lightning round, but we've got a half hour here.
No, en la Mega Drive lo podrá jugar.
We're going to thunder through some really tough questions that we gathered up from the community. Let's start with the big one, the beta. Now, you guys want to play, am I right?
Venga, hombre, bien.
Why can't you let them play any sooner, Todd?
There's a lot of chatter.
I'll pack up my stuff.
Look, we want everybody to play it as soon as
No hay fecha de
possible.
lanzamiento
We're playing
de
it
Doom
now.
Eternal
There's a
en ninguna
lot we have to
plataforma
do,
todavía.
right? There's things that we know we need to change and fix before we
Solo
get it in
Nintendo, Magic.
everybody's hands. And the other thing is, even though people are going to start playing the beta in October, this is a game that we're going to be constantly updating. So everybody's feedback is really, really important to us. The beta for us, this is an all-new thing, right? So we need to stress test a lot of systems. And that's why we called it the Break It Early test application, because it's going to break.
Oh,
Hola, Noel.
We're pretty sure of that. And get ready. And so it's really, we need to make sure we're ready for everybody comes in, it all crashes the first moment. See, I make it sound fun, right? It's going to be really fun. And then, making sure we're ready to fix that really, really fast. And so that we're in a good loop of, hey, here are the issues. Let's fix them and get everybody else in the game as soon as possible.
I want to pick up on something you said, just to reinforce it. You mentioned that this is a live game. Of course, we're going to continue to work on it. Your feedback still matters. Because I know that was something that I think some of the community were concerned about.
No tiene subtítulo.
Yes, everybody wants to play it sooner than later.
Básicamente, o sea, no puede tener subtítulo.
But you will continue to work on this game, or you have plans to continue to
Nintendo
work on this
Direct,
game
que son
and
en
evolve it.
directo,
It's not like
pero ya están
it's
grabados.
finished and then you're going to take one little round of feedback. You have lots of thoughts and plans, and we don't want to get into the roadmap, but...
Right. We do have kind of a roadmap in our heads, and this is a game that we think, with the community, is going to be a very different game a year after it's out, 2 years after it's out, 5 years after it's out. It's a game 10 years, 50 years. We have big plans and what we can do with the game and with our community, and the beta is just really the first step.
The first step. The next big one, PvP. I think everybody is excited, anxious, concerned, highly anticipating, nervous. You've talked about it a little bit here and there, but why don't you just take it from the top? How does it work? What's the deal with griefing? How are we going to be able to enjoy our Fallout game? Or how am I going to be able to screw up somebody else's Fallout game and get away with it? Or any variation on that. I'll just leave it to you to...
This is why I don't go on Reddit.
That's right.
All right, we will do our best to sort of explain where we're coming from with PvP. We agree with those. Like, we have folks in the office, we have that debate. Is it a... what is it? Where do we want the players' kind of driving force? Is it a PvE world thing? Is it the other players? And for us, it is both. How can we do both? And so the first thing we'd say is that we want this element of danger. It sounds weird to say, without griefing, which is like, okay, those things are often in conflict. So right now, and you've seen it in some of the E3 videos, when you shoot somebody, you do a little bit of damage. You don't do full damage. It's like an invitation. It's like slapping somebody in a bar.
Casio.
Like, you want to fight?
Exclusivo de calculadoras, Casio.
And like, that's annoying. But eventually, you're like, yeah, I think we're gonna. And so you do little bits of damage. If you engage, then you're doing full damage. And there's a cap reward based on the player's level. So if the player's really high level, you're going to get more caps from them than if they're low level. If you want to, after each one of them dies, you can seek revenge, which doubles the incentive. So the guy kills you, you're like, well, that was annoying. Then the game says, hey, if you want to seek revenge, I'm going to give you the double reward. It's like, okay, maybe I want to engage in that. And that's really, really fun. The issue is when you don't want to engage in it, right? Someone's coming up to you, and they're slapping you and slapping you and slapping you. And you're like, I really don't want to deal with this right now. We have a lot of ways you can get away from them, but we still like it where they do, if they keep going at it, they have the ability to kill you, which sounds terrible, right?
It does.
To be like, why would you do that? We like to turn that into a dramatic moment. So the player that kills somebody that didn't want to engage in it then becomes a wanted murderer. They get no reward.
Van saliendo subtítulos, pero en inglés.
That's like the first applause of the panel. Murder! And so there is no reward. You get no caps. You get no XP. You get nothing for becoming a wanted murderer, except for the kind of social incentives people have online to be assholes.
Right.
Which evidently there's quite a few. So what do we do with that? We turn the assholes into interesting content. So they appear on your map as a red star. Everybody sees them, and they have a bounty on their head. And that bounty comes out of their own caps.
Oh.
And they can't see the other players. So on the map.
Puedes ver a los otros jugadores en el mapa.
And we did this. We had this idea. Like let's turn it. Like let's make them interesting content. And it is when this happens, when anybody murders somebody while we're playing in the office, everyone sees on the map, and it is like it's awesome. Like
yeah, that's one of my favorite stories there. So the other day we had a big internal test. And we had played for hours, and towards the end of the test, I had leveled up. I had actually started early, and so I was higher level than a lot of the other people. And I saw that red star, and I was almost about to log off, and I was like, oh, now I'm going to get somebody. So I had built a sniper rifle, right? I found a hunting rifle on a super mutant, and I built a little scope, and I extended the barrel, and I was like, I finally get to use this. So I fast traveled near them. Now on the map, remember, you see where they are. It's not super up. It's a little relative, so it's not super pinpointy, but you'll know generally.
Voy a cambiar aquí.
I was almost about to log off, and I was like, oh, now I'm going to get somebody. So I had built a sniper rifle, right? I found a hunting rifle on a super mutant, and I built a little scope, and I extended the barrel, and I was like, I finally get to use this. So I fast traveled near them. Now on the map, remember, you see where they are. It's not super up. It's a little relative, so it's not super pinpointy, but you'll know generally where they are. So I'm sneaking, because when you sneak in our game, your appearance on the map disappears, no matter what state you're in, except for wanted. So my pip doesn't appear, and I'm sneaking, and I see him in the building, and I see him moving around, and he comes wandering out, and I took his head off with my sniper rifle. And he drops down, I go running up, I loot his junk, I dance, took a picture over his corpse, and logged off.
Bueno, el traductor no es que sea muy... No es que sea muy bueno el traductor, eh.
So, what happens when you die, though? What happens when someone kills you? Like, Chris, why don't you jump in? What, like, if I decide to engage, or even if I don't engage, am I punished if I die, or there's got to be something?
Claro que están mal.
For a long time, we tried testing where there was no punishment at all. And that took all the sting out of death. People used it to their advantage to travel back to various points, and it didn't feel right. But we didn't want to make it too punitive, because we do expect people will die, and there's no save games like a single-player game. So what happens when you die is you just drop your junk.
Pone lo que le da la gana.
And junk isn't worthless. You need junk to build things in your camp, or to make better guns, or to make better armor. So what it does is it creates a loop where you go out and explore, you create some junk, and if you happen to die, that's all you drop. You don't lose your awesome power armor or any of the guns that you've collected, but then you have to make a decision. Is like, was that enough junk that I need to go back and get it? Or is that something I can live without? And what people will do is they'll go back to their camp, and they'll put their junk back in their stash, which is safe. Nobody can take things out of each other's stashes. And we've also seeded the world with stashes as well. So if you know where some of the stashes are, it's always a safe place to store the junk that you've collected.
So just enough so it'll sting,
a
but
little
not
bit
enough
of a sting.
so that it'll really deeply hurt
And
you.
it's also a little bit of a reward for if you manage to kill somebody.
Haría
There's
falta
usually
una
something
conferencia
there.
como la de EA que...
And the thing with junk is it's
subtítulos están
nothing
ahí por
that you
encima.
can't just re-get if you just keep playing. Like that's that pile of it. But if you just start exploring, you'll collect more. So it's sort of like, well, that was sunk time. Do I want to go back and get it? And it's that happens on PvP. So if you do kill somebody, their junk drops, and you get to pick it up. You get the caps from them.
Right.
You can take the junk, but yeah.
But it's just a little grindy time, and you got it back.
It's just, you know, we like it. We put it in. It's just enough to make it where before you head into a dangerous area, before this, you would just run into a dangerous area. You don't care. There's no penalty to death. It's like you just fast travel back. And then once we did that, so you just stop a little bit, like, well, do I want to take a moment and like collect myself, store the junk before I head into danger.
If anyone remembers Fallout 4, screws are very valuable. So you can respawn anywhere you've unlocked, just like Fallout 4. You can fast travel wherever you'd like. The closest point to you is free, and the entrance to Vault 76 is free. Beyond that, you have to pay caps based on how far away it is from you. So if you decide you want to take that opportunity to go way far to a corner of the map, you're going to pay a small caps cost.
You know, speaking of the Vault, going back to PvP, it doesn't kick in until level 5. So that gets people into the game a little bit and understanding it before people start saying, hey, do you want to fight? Do you want to fight? Because otherwise, they'll just hang out. Because everyone comes out of the Vault. So you would just like set up your camp on all the turrets. That happened for a while. You're like, I'm really excited, I got the game.
Remember, for people who have more questions on PvP and can already see some exploits that might not be fun, we do allow you to ignore and block players too. So you can actually, when you die, or at any time, honestly, but especially when you die, we have an option there for if you're just done with that, you can ignore them for that session, then they can't see you on the map. They won't be able to still mess with you. But this is a very big game. It's very hard to find people unless you know exactly where they are. You can fast travel easily. We also are entering a pacifist flag, so your bullets won't do that slap to people. So you don't have to worry about, I'm fighting something, some idiot jumped in front of my bullets and tried to get me in PvP. We're allowing you to turn that off too.
People were abusing that in the studio.
Yeah.
The pacifist flag.
Well, no, they would wait till you go shoot a creature, and they would jump in front of the bullet.
Right.
Yeah. We had our QA team. I asked the QA team, with several hundred people, during one of our sessions, to be the biggest assholes they can one session. We got a lot of good notes out of that, of things we need to fix.
QA knows how to play the game.
Yeah, they know how to play.
I do have one more question about PvP, which is, if you are a higher level character with higher level armor, higher level weaponry, how do I even have a chance? And I get the slap mechanic, but if I want to engage and I'm a lower level character, am I just going to get destroyed instantly?
We struggled with that. So what we've done is there's two sort of power curves. You have the usual power curve against creatures in the world that you're used to in our games. And then, so if you take a power curve from like low damage to high damage, in PvP we normalize it. Okay? So just a knife is going to come up in damage, and the really powerful things are going to come down. So they feel right, but the death in PvP is quicker, and it works the same for armor. So if you play other multiplayer games, the guy in power armor with a minigun is obviously going to be harder. But if you get to drop on him with a knife, it does kind of work. And it makes it more fun without it being, well, I have no chance whatsoever. Again, there's still a rank there, it's just, you know, normalized.
Cool.
And you get the caps, all right? So that's the other thing, is why do I want to go try to kill a level 100 person in power armor with when I'm low level? Is that my reward is going to be way higher.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Nukes. Very cool.
It's a little feature.
But what happens when we're nuked? I mean, we know that things happen. We know that the area gets irradiated. Things are destroyed. There's higher level loot, higher level enemies. But let's say I have a camp in that area. What happens to my camp? How soon can I rebuild it? Chris, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, well, first of all, nukes are very cool. All right, they're one of the coolest things that happen in the game. Yeah. But we don't want it to be overly burdensome to a player to lose all their stuff, so that we don't. When you nuke a camp, it does destroy the structures, but we've created something called a blueprint system, so that if you spend hours making a really cool house with lots of detail, you can blueprint that house. So it's very easy to replace it in the event that it gets destroyed by a nuke. It also makes it very easy to move your camp. So even if we're not talking about destruction with nukes, if you decide you want to relocate your camp to a different part of the map, and you can pack it all up, and you can put it somewhere, and of course the terrain is going to be different, but because you've blueprinted your house, then you can usually find a way to jimmy it so that it looks good when you're replacing it. So it's very easy to get back to where you were.
The other thing with that is the camp destruction part is really, it's easy to repair it if you want to leave it where it was, but we did the camp destruction exists. It's not really for like, hey, go blow someone's camp up. We realized when we put it in that is a griefing mechanic, is like someone wanders by and then you build a camp and you like imprison them. Now they have no way to get out. So they need an ability to damage the walls just to get out of the prison you have built for them.
Right.
So it has less to do with, hey, we want other players to come and blow them up. The camp is also good for PvP, where someone engages with you and you lure them back to your camp. There's Ashley Chang in the studio. You can build like musical instruments, and he built his camp, and he's sitting in the middle of a road playing a tuba.
Huh.
And he's on this platform, so burp, 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 burp. And he had built all these turrets in the foliage you can't see. And everyone just like, this guy in a tuba, like, and then the turrets go, and he's just like killing everybody. He's like, burp, 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 the whole time. It's awesome. I forget where I was headed with that.
I don't know.
I don't know what the answer is. The camp
right.
intersecting with PvP stuff.
Right.
And the other thing with
Combate
moving it
en realidad,
around,
pero no jodas.
that was key
Se
because
cargan la
the game's
saga.
so big, you come out of the
Sí,
vault
me tengo una cosa de
and you
moda.
find a place where you're like, this is
No,
where I'm
por
going to build
Dios.
my camp. And then you play like 4
Por
more
Dios,
hours and you're
no.
like, I shouldn't, like, this view, I like this place better. So people tend to put their camp down.
Y
And
Nintendo
then
no haga
as they
eso porque
progress through the
lo que yo,
map,
entonces es que no me lo
they
compro.
are finding new areas. And then they kind of settle in, like, okay, I really like this spot.
So you move through the world, you meet friends, you're playing with others. How does communication work? Because I know that you've put a lot of thought into that, and that's even evolved a lot in recent days, months, weeks.
It has. And this was in the E3 stuff where we had the emote wheel we have, where you can emote, and we have the Vault Boy cartoons. It's really fun. We were big on communicating in a nice way with strangers, and we've had some successes there, but we have found that we weren't giving the other players, even if they were strangers, the ability to really be as interesting as we wanted. So now we're adding. We've had voice chat for your teammates. And now, if you want to turn on your mic, we have voice chat for all of the strangers, which really lets them communicate, and it's a very, very different dynamic in the game.
Yeah, area-based, so people around you will hear you talk. Yeah, and you can mute that too.
Any interesting chatter around the
Vale,
office
vale,
in
está
your own
hablando de lo del
playtests?
chat.
Any what?
In your own playtests, any
Y lo del
interesting
chat,
There's
con
always
los
interesting
desconocidos,
chatter. There's
bla, bla,
always
bla, bla.
cool photos that people are putting up from photo mode. I mean, it's a really fun game to play with people. I remember it was just a few weeks ago, I got to a point that was really hard.
El problema es que no entiendo
I
lo que
waited till
dice.
lunchtime and then gathered a bunch of people. It's like, hey, you need to come help me with this part. So get a bunch of people logged in at lunch, and then we go and kill the super mutants.
Cool. Let's talk about VATS. How exactly does VATS work? If it's an online game, it's more of a real-time, everything's happening in real time. How does VATS work?
It's real time. We now, initially, you can't
Panaguino,
target
compañero.
body parts. That's a perk.
Okay.
Because it's real time, like getting all the parts at first is kind of hard. So we did it where you get the whole body, you get the percentage based on your perception, and it's incredibly, incredibly useful. And so we did that, and it plays really, really well. So we're happy with it.
Yeah, it's not just useful to target and hit enemies, it's also to find them.
Yeah.
So you use that a lot to try to, I heard something shoot at me, where is it? Because obviously the game in certain areas is much more lush than our previous game, so things are very hidey.
Que ya está anunciado para todas las plataformas y no está para
the thing I
Switch.
personally love about
Me lo
VATS,
preguntéis
I'm
40
not
veces
the
por
most
stream,
skilled
tío.
Twitchy player, so it allowed
No lo van a
me to
anunciar para
become
Switch. Eso
a
sería la
much better
sorpresa,
player
pero
in a
que
game
ya está
like
anunciado
Fallout.
y no está para Switch.
I mean, is that something? So for those who want to engage in combat, does it still help them in the same way?
It does. Because it's based on your perception, and perception starts at 1 now,
Right.
it's not as
Yo no lo veo.
useful out
Para Switch
of
este
the
juego, pero-
gate. But then the point is, if you invest, I'm a perception character, those percentages do cross a line where, oh my gosh, I'm definitely more accurate using this than I am just doing it on my own. And we try to strike a good balance there.
An easy question. I think we might have even mentioned it in the past, but who's doing the music for Fallout 76?
Enon Zur, who's done the music for our other games, he's amazing. The soundtrack is spectacular.
Yeah.
Va a tener una soundtrack espectacular, ha dicho, de todos los demás juegos de Fallout que han salido.
And we
Switch
have a
sí
lot
lo puede
of,
mover este juego,
licensed
Juan
music as
Cuevas,
well. So we have
vaya,
more
hombre.
tracks than we've ever had in
Este
the
juego
Fallout game.
precisamente.
So there are radio stations you can listen
motor que yo he
to.
visto.
Something we've loved in the series, and it's always fun to go through and say, like, okay, what are the classic tracks we want to have? And then
Classic tracks?
there is an unbelievable amount of just bizarre old 40s music. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's some wacky stuff. And it's great for Fallout.
Música bizarra
So
de los
sometimes it's
40.
like, hey, what's the mood of this song? And then other ones are, hey, this is the song that has, this kind of you know, the slant on the lyrics as it appears in Fallout when it's post-apocalyptic make it really fun.
We know Fallout 76 is an online game. This question has come up a lot on places like Reddit. What about private servers?
Molaría eso mogollón, Brian.
That is definitely something that we are doing. We're committed to it. Modding for us, it's not just having a private server, it's
Que tengo pinta de rudo yo.
being able to mod it. So
Pues
mods
si tú lo
for
dices,
us
macho.
have really been,
Y de
you know, once our
chillona
games
nada,
come
no tengo la
out,
voz
that's what
de
our
no tengo
hardcore
la
players
voz así.
play.
Pero
And
chillona,
you're
no
still
tengo la
playing,
voz
you know,
así.
Skyrim and Fallout 4,
Tampoco.
two of the still most popular
No sé lo que es para
games
ti
in
una
the
voz
world,
chillona,
and a lot
chaval,
of people are
pero
playing mods.
chillona no la
And
tengo.
so that is something that, given the online nature of it, is going to be very, very complicated, but we're committed to it, and we've been, you know, starting to design what that system is going to look like. But it is, you know, it's a, I would say this, it's a complicated problem, but one that we are 100% committed to solving.
Te diré que no le costaría tanto, que se podría llevar.
I think that wraps us up. I think we got through the questions we had. Any last words for the audience about Fallout 76, what you're excited about, what you want people to experience?
I just can't wait to see all these people in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Un
We
juego
can't
de
wait to
peleas de
play with you
waifus.
guys.
Ojalá.
I would say really it's, you know, seeing everybody here and what our fans have meant to us. This is part of our excitement. You know, whenever we do a game, we try to make the game that we would really want to go out and buy ourselves. And this one is very, very different for us. We know it's different for our fans. But it's also the first game that we can really experience with them. And that part of it is really important to us. And I don't think people really understand how exciting that is for everybody at all the studios.
Yeah. It's exciting for all of us. Thank you, Todd, Jeff, Chris. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Fallout comes out,
muy bien.
Comes out November 14 on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. We'll be sharing a lot more information soon. Thank you, and a big round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you.
Ya habéis visto que no va a estar para Switch. ¿Vale? Le han hecho una entrevista a los señores y ya está. Yo creo que ya está, ¿eh? No van a mostrar mucho más. ¡Ya se terminó, güey! Han enseñado muy poco. La verdad. Pero bueno, lo dicho. Que me voy a montar el vídeo que tengo pendiente, ¿ok? Gracias por haber estado aquí. Los que hayáis entendido un poquito de inglés, pues habréis enterado un poquito mejor de lo que va a traer este Fallout 76. Y los que no, pues deciros que básicamente seguramente lo digan en un vídeo, ¿vale? Repasaré un poco el stream y lo digan en un vídeo. Así que lo dicho. Ya están empezando aquí con otra cosa. Así que lo dicho, chavales. Muchas gracias por haber estado aquí. Un besazo enorme. Había muy poco gameplay, pero ya sabéis, dentro de un ratito tendréis un vídeo muy interesante en el canal. Así que ya sabéis que os espero, como siempre, en la próxima entrega de Behind the Games. Hasta luego, gente. Chao.